immigration policies, and no to core civic. We ask, we beg, we implore you, join our cause. Together, we can win. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Thank you for your support. God bless you.
Each and every person here today is making a difference in our country. Thank you. When I found out late last night that Joe couldn't make it back from Washington to join us, I thought about what I might say. And my mom came to mind right away. You know, she was born shortly before women were able to vote, almost 100 years ago. This year we have seen, as we have never seen before, that the 19th Amendment is every bit as important to the fabric of our nation as the First Amendment. The women of Indiana and the United States will continue to exercise all of our rights. And our collective voices are making a difference. Together we are sending a message that we're not going to stand by while men are paid a higher wage and granted greater responsibilities for the same work as women. Together, we are holding accountable the individuals who have committed sexual assault and the organizations who tolerate it. Today you are bringing our values forward and shaping a more equitable society by making our voices heard once again. Every day you're making a difference by being involved. You are running for office in our towns and cities, in our counties, in our state, and in our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is making a difference. This is what the future looks like. Women, and more than a few good men like my Joe, are carrying our values to the front lines. We cannot go backwards. We will not go backwards. And now, join me and let's all go forward.
Mic check one, mic. Can you guys hear me now?
Tell Joe no wall. Tell Joe that Congress shut down the government. They did not shut down the government. They closed a few offices. This is what's going to shut down and change the government. What we have to always know and always remember is that the power is the people's power. It shall always be the people's power. And we have every intention on ensuring, not only in Washington, but right here where our buckets are in the great state of Indiana, we reclaim our state. We ensure that our elected officials are amplifying our will and our voices. So right here, it ain't shut down till we shut it down. Let's be real clear. It ain't shut down until we shut it down. Because right now, we start the power to the polls. The power is with the people. The power is with the people. And yeah, like Bernice King said, we do need to start a revolution. And it might not be televised. But we shall have the power. All right, let's keep it going. So we also were to have with us our congressman out of the 7th District, Andre Carson. But again, all of our elected officials could not leave because they closed some offices up in D.C. But again, we're going to show them how to shut it down. All right, we have a healthcare advocate to come for us because that's something that they've been attacking since the day they got ready to go into office. Donald Trump will not rest until he's destroyed every and any semblance of President Obama's agenda, anything that has been progressive for our communities, anything that does not actively affect the wealthy, they want nothing to do with it. The attack on our health care is real. It's not over. It shall continue until we shut it down. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Michelle Lewis.
Hi, I'm going to start off by saying if I stumble over words, please forgive me. This is only the second time I've done this, and the first time I could not see all the people I was talking to. I'm from healthcarevoter.org. About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, a disease that is both life-diminishing and at times life-threatening. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with lupus, but basically what happens is that your immune system, instead of fighting infections, it fights against your own organs. Okay, can y'all hear me better now? Okay, let me back up about 2 seconds here.
Hold on a second, hold on.
Oh.
Talk directly into it, directly close.
Okay, I think we've got it fixed now. Okay, like I said, forgive me if I stumble over some words. This is only the second time I've attempted to do this in public. Thank you. About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, a disease that is both life-diminishing and at times life-threatening. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with lupus, but basically what happens is your immune system, instead of fighting infections, it attacks your own organs. In my case, it attacks my kidneys, my lungs, and my nervous system. It's also a painful disease, whereas I feel that I have been ran over by the treads of one of the tanks that we have over in Afghanistan. It's not fun. There's no cure. I'll be on a combination of medications for the rest of my life. 90% of lupus patients are female. Before the Affordable Care Act, due to the pre-existing condition, I was uninsurable. The only way I was able to see my rheumatologist and get treatment for my lupus was by enrolling in clinical studies and testing out medications that were not approved by the FDA. As you can probably guess, that was kind of a hassle, but it kept me alive at least. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, I'm here today. I would really like to thank President Obama because he quite literally saved my life. Thanks to his signature piece of legislation and the wonderful governor we had in Kentucky at the time, who expanded Medicaid, just like Mike Pence did here in Indiana at the time. I have insurance, I have coverage, which, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to talk about this part because it is very personal, and thinking back on how close I came to dying gets me a little choked up. Anyway, I haven't been able to work for the last 3 years because of the lupus flare, so I've been on really strong immune suppressants, including medications that they use for transplant patients to keep them from rejecting their transplanted organs, such as their kidneys or lungs. In August of 2016, I got bronchitis. I get it about 4 or 5 times a year. It's usually no big deal. We start me on antibiotics and steroids for about 2 weeks, and it clears up. But we have to be really careful. I went through the antibiotics and the steroids, and I was getting sicker. We tried different combinations for about a month, and I kept getting sicker. Now I went to see the doctor. My regular doctor was on vacation, so I saw the doctor filling in for him, which was an old man who dismissed my concerns completely. I'm sure a lot of you women know the type. The old men, they don't listen to what we say. They don't think we know what our bodies are telling us. Instead of doing an exam at all, he handed me a prescription for Claritin to fight an infection that I'd been fighting for 6 weeks. Needless to say, it did nothing. 3 days later, still getting worse, trying to decide what I should do because I'm a huge football fan, and my Cardinals are playing in Florida State the next day and hosting game day. I probably should have gone to the emergency room, but I chose to go to urgent care. I had a really awesome female doctor who did exactly, we need more female doctors. We need more female lawyers. We need more women in all of the sciences in general, and in a lot of the higher professions. But back to the doctor. She looked at my chart, she talked to me about my concerns, she did a new set of chest x-rays, and she could see that I had some pneumonia in the middle lobe of my right lung. She recommended a pulmonologist. She started me on a stronger dose of steroids and gave me a different antibiotic. And she said that she understood why I had chosen to come see her instead of going to the emergency room, because if she had tickets to the game, she would have done everything she could to make it the next day as well. Thankfully, my Cards won, so it was worth it. I got in to see the pulmonologist the following week. He immediately ordered a chest CT and a bronchoscopy. If I hadn't had coverage through the Affordable Care Act, I wouldn't have been able to see him. There's no way I could have afforded a doctor like that, much less the test that he ordered. The bronchoscopy came back with the tissue samples. I had a fungal infection and strep C down in my lungs as well as pneumonia. Strep C in your lungs is bad for anybody, even worse when you have no immune system. Thankfully, he was able to target the treatment specifically to the infections that I had. Without that treatment, I likely would have died. I'm not ready to die. I have 2 young nephews that I want to live to see grow up, and I don't want them to grow up without me. Now, I tell y'all this because the Republicans in Congress and the Republicans in both of our states want to take health care away from us. We don't want them to do that. In Kentucky, where I'm from, Matt Bevin just got a waiver approved to require Medicaid recipients, unless they're on permanent disability, to work regardless of if they're sick or not, if they're trying to recover so that they can get healthy. Indiana, along with 9 other states, has a similar waiver application into the federal government. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if somebody's too sick to work, I don't think that taking health care away from them is the right solution. And we all know that the Republicans in Washington are trying to do away with all of the Affordable Care Act. Now, I don't think that that's the right solution. We shouldn't take health care away from people who need it. We don't want to take birth control away from women, do we? Especially if they're not going to take Viagra away from men. So if men have Viagra, I think we might need the birth control. That's why I'm asking all of y'all to join me today as a healthcare voter. You can go to healthcarevoter.org and sign up. We're trying to activate at least 1 million voters across the country to let our senators and representatives know that if they take our health care away, we are going to fire them from their jobs and replace them with people who will listen to what we have to say. Are you all with me?
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we're going to continue with our agenda. We're moving right along here. Our next speaker is going to be Rabbi Sandy Sasso, Director of Religion and Spirituality at Butler University, and Rabbi Mitria and co-founder of Women for Change Indiana.
I am here representing Women for Change. Hello, all of you people for change. During the last midterm election, Indiana had the lowest voter turnout of all states, 28%. We rank in the lower 20% among states in voter registration. Today we make a promise. Not again. Not on our watch. Not in 2018. Not in Indiana. We have not forgotten. In 1776, only white Protestant male landowners could vote. Jews, Quakers, and Catholics weren't given the right to vote until 1828. Women's suffrage was not recognized until 1920. Native Americans were not given the right to vote until 1948. And only in 1965 was racial discrimination in voting prohibited. We have not forgotten. People have been beaten, jailed, and murdered for that right. To those who doubt the power of women, who think we will tire of the fight, that our march will not translate into action and votes, we say, hear our voice. To those who say that pounding the streets, making the phone calls, confronting voter suppression, rallying the vote is messy work, we say women have been cleaning up other people's messes for a long time. The consequences of the 2018 midterm elections will be felt for a generation. Just stay close. The consequences of the 2018 midterm election will be felt for a generation. Healthcare, family planning, Medicare, Social Security, the makeup of the courts, redistricting. It is all at stake. Hear our voice. 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 When we are still debating a hate crimes bill in Indiana, when sexual orientation and gender identity result in repression, when women are subject to harassment and lower pay, we speak the truth. We name it for what it is: sexism, homophobia, bullying. Hear our voice. When people are victimized because of race or religion, when laws are made to keep out those who seek refuge, we speak the truth. We name it for what it is: hate, racism, bigotry. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. When money is cut from agencies and programs that feed the hungry, that feed the hungry children, shelter the homeless, protect our environment, when reduction of the federal deficit is placed on the backs of women, children, and the elderly, we speak the truth. We name it for what it is. It is unjust. It is callous. It is cruel. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. Hear our voice. When government kills trust, the voting booth is where we restore that trust. When fear replaces hope, the voting booth is where faith is restored. When words are used to disguise truth and obscure fact, the voting booth is where we reclaim the language of democracy. Today we restore hope and trust. Today we pledge to vote to begin the long journey toward change. We are strong, we are resilient, we are in this for the long haul. Count on our vote and hear our voice.
Just to get y'all woke. Stay woke. Don't sleep. Okay, we got a few more speakers before we get to our dynamic keynote. I'm going to ask all the speakers to please be reminded of your 3-minute remarks. Next, we're going to bring up Sandy Rivera from DACA recipient and advocate for Indiana Dreamers. Lisa Coate, Associate Director of Legal Services for the National Immigration and Justice Center, and adjunct professor at Notre Dame School of Law.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Sandy Rivera. I am from Tamaulipas, Mexico. I am 20 years old. I am a junior at IUPUI, aspiring to be an elementary school teacher. I am a sister, I am a daughter, I am a friend, I am a student. I am a proud Latina woman. But most importantly, I I am undocumented and unafraid. First and foremost, I would like to thank God for giving me the opportunity to stand here in front of you all today to not only share my personal story as an immigrant woman, but to stand in solidarity with each and every one of you. My story begins in 2002 as I migrated to the United States with my mother and older brother on a tourist visa. After many years, we would finally be reunited with my father, who had long been working in the United States since the age of 18 to provide for his family back in Mexico. Unlike most, my journey to the United States fell on the easier side. I was able to travel on a bus and safely cross the border. But like most immigrants, many sacrifices, hardships, and the uncertainty for the future has gotten me to where I am today. Growing up, I was aware of my status here in the United States, but I chose to hide in the shadows by assimilating to American societal values and expectations. This assimilation created a rift between who I was and who I was meant to be. As a young child, until the time I reached high school, I made the decision to hide a part of me that I didn't want to accept. I was afraid, I was ashamed, and ultimately, I feared of what people would think of me if they were to find out. It wasn't until my high school beginnings that I was forced to face a part of me that I had buried. After many college careers and conversations with both friends and teachers, it was then that I realized that I would not be able to have my first job, my license, or my first car. All things that were considered milestones for the typical American high school student. But most importantly, I realized that despite all the sacrifices and efforts made by my parents, I would fail to grasp onto the opportunity and dreams that they hoped I would be able to attain by bringing me to the United States. Immigrant parents are the original dreamers. They left their homes, they left their families, they left all they ever knew for their children. Immigrant parents have already done the hard part. It is up to us to continue to pave the way for the next generations to come. So once again I say, immigrant parents are the original dreamers. They sacrificed all their dreams in order for us to live ours. To finish up, since I am limited on time, today I stand here before you, undocumented, unafraid, and unapologetic. Today I am now aware of who I am and who I am meant to be. Today I stand before you as a proud Latina woman with a message that I wish I would have gotten as the little girl who was lost and struggled with embracing her identity for too long. Keep pushing forward regardless of the odds placed against you. In life, we must face uncertainties in order to persevere. It is okay to be afraid. It is okay to make mistakes. It is okay to be human. You are not defined by whatever category society places you in. You are defined by what makes you you. You are strong, beautiful, independent, passionate, selfless, and resilient. You are a woman. Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos.
I get with her? No? Yeah. All right, my name is Lisa Coop. I'm an immigration attorney with the National Immigrant Justice Center. I'm proud to stand next to Sandy and humbled to share a few comments in the wake of her powerful message. I live up north in Goshen, where I work for NIJC, and I got my legal education here in the fantastic city of Indianapolis. I marched last year and I marched today to express my commitment to fight alongside women like Sandy and other brave, strong immigrant women. In the last 12 months, we have seen unprecedented attacks on immigrant communities fueled by false narratives, misinformation, xenophobia, and racism. In response, we call on our lawmakers to pass a Clean Dream Act. We call on our lawmakers to maintain protection for asylum seekers and unaccompanied children, and we call on our lawmakers to reject legislation that reduces family-based immigration. The laws that we need to protect our communities and ensure full participation by our immigrant sisters will not come to pass without effort. We encourage the women here today and everybody here today to protect immigrant rights by educating yourself about immigration issues. Learn the facts. You can learn them from organizations like mine, which you can access at immigrantjustice.org. Show up at town meetings and public forums. Call on lawmakers to support good bills and oppose bad ones. And for those of you who are allies, initiate fact-based, non-adversarial conversations with acquaintance and contacts who need to hear human stories like Sandy's to understand what is at stake in this debate. And vote. You must vote. We also have to celebrate the individual victories that have kept hope alive this past year. I'll mention one. We celebrate Helen, a Honduran woman who fled severe gender violence in Honduras and was granted asylum before the Chicago Immigration Court. She lives here in Indianapolis and is raising her young daughter in safety. We must celebrate the victories and continue to advocate with and for all immigrant women. For those who remain undocumented, we must push loudly and persistently for change so that they may continue to enrich our communities without the threat of deportation. In order to realize the promise of America, we need them and they need those of us with status to cultivate and amplify the impulse for justice within ourselves, within our communities, and throughout this great nation. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to call up Indiana's own Miss Cordelia Lewis Burks.
Hello there. Well, we're here again, aren't we? 1 year from the date of we were here last year, fighting the good fight for those who need our voices. And our voices and our vote is our voice. I learned a long time ago that salvation for a nation must come from within, because freedom is never granted. It is exacted. And we must continue to fight for all races of all lands. During the past week, we celebrated the life and the legacy of Martin Luther King. But it appears that our politicians and our elected officials have forgotten about equality and humility. As the political chattering class obsessed over Donald Trump's latest tweets, we have put fear in the lives of many Republicans as we have advocated for the abolishment of gerrymandering. We must keep up this fight, because as we look into the eyes of the dreamers, they are counting on us to advocate for them. This is the land they only know as their hands, as their home, and we cannot allow the politicians of this nation to deport families and break up families as they have been doing. I'm cutting this short, I really am. You know, on December the 20th, we saw the biggest tax cut ever enacted in this nation. But you know, we know that that tax cut was not for working people and poor people. It was for the wealthiest of this land. And it seems that they have forgotten that the Bible said it will be harder for a rich man to get to heaven as it will be for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. We were told by Donald Trump and those in Congress on the Republican side of the aisle that the tax cut will bring jobs to this country. It never has, and it never will. Indiana had a large tax cut and have not recouped the jobs or the money. Yet they send checks to corporations in this state and leave out education and our first responders. You know, we talk about dreamers, and we must stand with them. But dreamers are students. There are outraged at what is taking place in this country. You should be outraged at the programs that are being cut for the poor people, for children. You should be outraged that they don't want you to have affordable health care. You should be outraged. I believe that we are stronger when we're together, when we're all sitting at the table. And it's our vote that's going to give us that place. After the march, after the speeches, each of us, our friends, our families, must take the responsibility that we must take serious and get out and vote. In the words of Michael Jackson, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself. And I will add, get out and vote. Then change will come. It is up to us, to each of us, to vote from the White House to the State House. Because that is the only time when we will see change. I've cut it down as much as I can. I'm glad you're here. I am glad you're here. Get to the polls and vote, not only in 2018, but in 2019 and in 2020. Thank you very much.
their mama. All right, Julia Vaughn's gonna bring it to you.
Good afternoon, my fellow Hoosiers. I'm here to take my government back. What about you? And you know where we got to start, right? We got to start by ending gerrymandering. The theme today is power at the polls, but for too many Hoosiers, that power has been taken away. And it was taken away in 2011 by the folks inside this building who drew the maps. Redistricting reform is the key to so many issues. Reproductive justice, health care, worker safety, jobs, the economy. We are not going to get any of those issues right until we have a legislative body inside this building and inside Congress that is truly representative of Hoosiers and the American public. Now, the good news is that the courts are on to them. The courts have delivered victories for us, and we believe those victories are going to help us gain momentum to pass redistricting reform in this building and across our country, but we need your help. I need each of you to contact your state legislator. Tell them the issue for 2018 is not where and what temperature we can buy beer at, but it is redistricting reform. Because we will never be able to fully exercise the power that is represented here today until we have fair districts. Now, on Monday morning at 9:30, and I recognize that most of you will be at your jobs, but at Monday morning, 9:30, if any of you are available, I need you to join us here inside the Indiana State Capitol. There will be a hearing on a bill that is not perfect, but it will address one of the problems with gerrymandering in our state. It's Senate Bill 326. It will set up some standards, some public interest standards standards for redistricting, and we need your support. The only way we are going to take back the Indiana State House and the Congress is if the districts are fair. We've got to get this done, because in 2021, new districts will be drawn, and we have to make sure that there is a fair process in place. So I invite you, our table's down towards Capitol Avenue. We've got a petition. You can sign up for our redistricting listserv. Please check us out on Facebook at commoncause.org. But we've got to end gerrymandering in Indiana. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to bring somebody up from Brothers United, but the sisters taking care of it for them. Michelle Curry.
Yeah. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Michelle Curry, and I'm here representing Terrell Parker, Interim Executive Director of Brothers United Incorporated, in his absence. On behalf of Brothers United, Inc., we would like to thank the organizers of the Women's March for being intentional in inviting us to speak at this event. Intersectionality is important to the work that we do at Brothers United. Our mission is to enhance the health and wellness of our community, including those who are gender and sexual minorities and the people who live and work in our neighborhoods. For us, this means understanding that people are diverse and complex, with a variety of intersecting identities and often intersecting challenges related to these identities. In order for us to build a cross-cultural intersectional movement, it is important for us to use the leverage our power as individuals. It is important for us to center and amplify the voices of those most marginalized, women of color and transgender women in particular. As an agency serving predominantly queer men of color, it is important for Brothers United to stand alongside women in the movement for progress. It is important for men to leverage some of those privileges they possess to open the doors for women, to stand next to women as allies and demand women receive equitable treatment across the board. The programs and challenges in our community are great. We will succeed when everyone in our community achieves true equality. A fair and just society is one where women are paid equally, treated equally, and where women can attain success in all things regardless of race, education, gender, religion, or creed. Thank you again for the invitation. Let's continue to do the work needed to help our community progress. Thank you so much.
All right, vote by mail, Bonnie Horlander.
Yeah! Hello, amazing women and men here in Indiana. When we vote by mail, we will have legislation that will protect a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. In vote by mail, no legislator will be able to suppress your vote. Indiana is one of the 3 states that closes polls at 6 p.m., the very worst time to close polls for younger voters, especially younger women voters. Try getting off work at 5 o'clock, picking up your children at daycare, getting to a poll by 6 p.m., and standing in line
line for 2 hours to vote. It doesn't work. We all have an equal right to vote in Indiana, but we do not all have an equal ability to vote. Indiana is one of the few states that does not have a law that requires employers to let their employees have time off to go vote. No one should have to make a choice between voting and earning a living. And it's absurd that Marion County, with over 900,000 residents, has only one early voting site. When compared to other counties that have 55,000 residents and have 5 or more early voting sites, only because they're less diverse. Indiana vote by mail gives everyone equal convenience of voting. When we vote by mail, it will no longer matter that polls close at 6 p.m. or that there's only one early voting site. Every vote will be valued equally, whether you live in a diverse neighborhood in the middle of Indianapolis or you happen to be a legislator at our state house. And voting by mail will save Indiana taxpayers millions of dollars, and it's more secure. No person or no country will be able to change our election results. No one will be able to vote with your ballot. No one will be able to vote if they're not registered to vote in Indiana, and no one can vote twice with Indiana with vote by mail. And finally, we can stop these never-ending voter fraud conspiracy theories that of massive voter fraud only used to try to deny the votes for minority groups. Help us get legislation passed that's in the State House. We can have vote by mail, and we can have a government here in Indiana that's good for all Indiana women.
Thanks, Bonnie. Next, we're going to have Aliyah Amin representing Muslim Alliance of Indiana.
Good afternoon. Years from now, when our kids learn about these times and ask us, what did you do? Each and every one of us should be able to proudly answer that question and tell them we were not idle and we did not stay silent. We spoke up for what we believed in and effected real change. I would like to tell you a story of a woman that inspires me. This woman was born into a relatively wealthy family. Her father owned his own business. When he passed away, she inherited that business, and under her leadership, that business thrived. There was a young man who had heard about this and wanted to work for this woman because of her honest reputation and innovative business practices. He applied and got the job. Years later, she proposed to him, they got married, and the rest is history. This woman's name was Khadijah, and the man was Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And when our prophet faced persecution, it was her political clout that saved him and helped him. Although this story is about 1,500 years old, it's one that could be true today, except for one detail: the political clout, political power. Where is our political power, ladies? This year, we have a record number of women running for various levels of office. 78 who are considering making a run for governor in their states. While I am proud of my sisters for stepping up to the plate, running for office isn't for everyone. But there is something we can do. Vote, vote, vote. When everyone thought Alabama would go a certain way, it was women, black women, who voted and changed the tide. The Women's March has set a goal of registering 1 million voters. Knowing the power of women, I know we'll get there. But today, I would like to add to that goal. In addition to registering the 1 million voters, let's get those 1 million voters to the polls in 2018. Let's come back next year and say we did it. Thank you and see you next year.
Shake that thing, miss. Better shake that thing, miss. Better shake that thing, yeah. Da-da-da-da. Tony and Rebecca, woman, get busy. Just shake that booty, don't stop when the beat drop. Get drunk, up, percolate, and it.
Now this is how you bring up Glenda Ritz.
I'm Glenda Ritz, former Indiana Superintendent of Public Instruction. My life's work has been to advance the cause of public education. Public education is one of our most fundamental civil rights, and all children should have access to an education that is equitable, student-centered, and of high quality in Indiana and throughout our nation. The voters' power propelled me in 2012 as a Democratic woman into the arena of politics to have a role in creating and implementing education policy to best serve students and to reclaim professionalism for our educators. A movement for Indiana to support our public education system. Even though my tenure at the State House ended in 2017, I am still dedicated and committed to building a strong public education system of equity and high quality at the state and national levels. Our students deserve no less. Currently, I write a monthly article for the Indianapolis Business Journal. I'm allowed to write on any topic, but I have chosen to always write about issues affecting our children. I am continuing my work with public schools through my newly formed company, Advancing Public Schools, and I just agreed to serve on the Board of Advisors for Hoosier Women Forward, focusing on getting more Democratic women in power at every level throughout the state. We all have causes we want to advance. We have had many speakers today expressing the need to improve our society through policy making. To the women here today, you are participating in this march because you have decided you need to take a stand for your cause as a woman. Fuel your passions. Educate yourself on the issues. Write about your cause. Speak about your cause. Help organize to vote. Help organize to vote. Help organize to vote. Or take the risk to run for office. No matter your involvement, you will be influencing and impacting your daughters and your granddaughters for years to come. Instilling the desire to speak up, speak out, and be involved in our democracy. Eleanor Roosevelt has been an historical role model for me as a woman. Two of her quotes guide me. May they guide you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And the second quote, you must do the things you think you cannot do. Whereby we may be inspired by other women, empowerment comes from within. Empower yourself to seek opportunities for civic engagement. By doing so, you will reclaim our state and the nation through the power at the polls in 2018.
Thank you. I know we've got a long agenda. We got one speaker and then our final speaker. But this is what happens when you have intentional inclusion. This is what happens when you want every voice to be amplified. So we appreciate you being able to stand out in the weather with us, but this is what it takes to move our cause. Right now, we're going to bring up our next speaker. Representing, excuse me, the State Council, President of the Indiana National Organization for Women, Heather Wildred Holman.
Woo! Hello, beautiful, amazing, and strong Hoosiers. It's so good to be here with you today, even though we are freezing. Woo! I'm so excited to be here again with you all today, a year later, continuing to resist and persist. Last year, I don't think they knew what to make of us. They did not know that we were just getting started. We continue to march and rally and use our voices because we need and deserve to be heard. We know we make a difference. We believe in a true democracy, and we know we have the power to elect representatives that truly listen to and work for the best interest of all Hoosiers and the American people. We can work together to create better communities on a wide range of issues such as education, food security, racial and gender equity, violence prevention, community police relations, and build prosperity for all. This year's midterm elections are important ones. We can cause a shift in 45's ability to perpetuate his racist, sexist, and intolerant agenda and prevent another 2 years of more of his garbage. We have to get this done, and we will get this done. Midterm elections have historically had low voter turnout, but let's change that this year. 2018 is the year that we will reclaim our state and bring power to the polls. We know that when we organize, we win. When we run on our principles, we win. There's a saying that goes, if you are not at the table, then you are on the menu. And I refuse to be on the menu. We have to fight for the privileges, recognition, and opportunities we rightly deserve. And we must keep fighting, because when one woman stands for herself and demands a seat at the table, it empowers others to do the same. Currently, there are 150 seats in our state legislature, and only 30 of those seats are held by women. That needs to change. Shirley Chisholm, who ran in 1972 for president, said, and if they don't give you a seat, bring a chair. When progressive women hold political power, we bring valuable perspectives to the legislative process. We create equitable systems for marginalized communities. Let's help them get elected by volunteering for their campaigns and give what you can to the amazing candidates that are running. Voting is the foundation of our democracy. We know that when it works well and we have access to the opportunity to elect representatives that work and listen to us, work for us and listen to us, that they will help us get our place at the table. Voter suppression is real and it is intentional.